Hello there! Today is day 23 of working on a currently untitled project, so let's hop right in. So I tried out a few variations of the same idea today for the shell of the Titan. I'm trying out this hexagonal pattern for the shell that glows when something gets on it or near it, including walls. It's interesting. I do like it a lot more than the previous attempts so far. This feels more correct. It's not quite there yet, but I'll get into that later. There are a few variants of this. The other main variant is this one, where a few changes on this one. One, it has a wider radius, so more gets highlighted. It highlights a bit slower. And it only highlights the edges rather than the entire shape. And there's a lot that can be adjusted within that. Yeah, so that's the main update on the project. That's the core stuff. If you want to listen to me ramble, feel free to stick around. If you want to just click off, feel free. Yeah, so right now, this technique is horrifically inefficient. Every single hexagon is doing a sphere cast around it to determine if there are any colliders nearby it, which is terrible. If you make this 100 by 100 grid, like, it lags horrifically. Right now I have it at a 3550 and no lag, but I have a pretty good PC as well, and there's not anything else going on, so yeah. Upping the values just does not go well. There's a whole bunch of different values to play around with, in terms of, just to get a given look. So, yeah. Like I said, I like this a fair bit more than the previous attempts I've made. This one feels more right. It just feels better. But, yeah, I don't know, it's still not great. It's still, I don't know, let me, I don't know, yeah, I'm sort of just going around in circles right now, I think, so, I'm just playing around with a few values to show off different outcomes. It is certainly better, and that's progress. And this is an important part of the game, given that's like the ground you stand on the entire time, or float on, however you want to put it. Yeah. So, one of the big questions I need to answer is, are hexagons actually the right shape for this? Maybe it's better to do triangles, maybe it's better to do squares, maybe a more complicated pattern that integrates multiple shapes like a mosaic would be optimal, or just procedurally generating a more complicated pattern. That would be a lot more difficult to do what I'm doing in terms of, like, highlighting things that you're close to, though. Like, that gets really complicated, because right now I can basically just sphere cast, just do a sphere check around, each cell, and say, hey, if you're nearby a cell, then hey, that works out. If you're not nearby a cell, or if there's nothing nearby a cell, then it goes away. That just basic stuff like that. But But if you have like weird angular shapes, like long shapes in particular, like that becomes really complicated. So maybe hexagons are best just because they enable this behavior, and that's what I want. Other things to experiment with, giving it color. I still haven't found a color that I like for the shell, so I'm sticking with white for right now, but I kinda actually want to go with white for the player eventually. It's just that right now, given the ground is white, I don't want to make the player white, because that's a bad idea. The player will just blend in, unless they stand out somehow. So, yeah, I don't know. Stuff to solve. I'm asking an artist friend for some advice, and I'm hoping to chat with them about some of this, and maybe they can give me some tips, because I do not actually have any formal training in art, so I do not know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm also going to try a volumetric effect on the hexagon on this tomorrow on the hexagons, and just see if that feels correct, because the shell actually has thickness to it. It's not just this one tiny surface. It actually has like depth to it, and I think that'll be particularly impactful on this variant, where like you have this, and like maybe you can see through the side there, like there's still depth, and you like it'll be minor, but it will be noticeable, I think, at steep angles. Not so much right on top, but yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes, and it may not have much effect until like there's like, if I have like multiple layers to the ico, that might improve this effect, but I'm not sure I want that, because that's not quite right, because there won't be more shell between the top level of the ico and the bottom level of the ico. Like there would just be layers of ico, and you'd have a volumetric effect there, where it gets darker or something like that, or otherwise changes color, or something. Even the fact that it goes dark is sort of unrealistic if I want it to glow in the first place. What this is simulating here is water caustics, which is not actually quite what I'm after. It's a good look, I think, but it's not quite realistic for what I'm trying to do. So I need to consider my options there as well. So the ico is also something that I need to explore more. The shader is sort of just a placeholder for the moment. Also another thing, which you've probably noticed, I stopped the ico flow, so it was flowing last time, but I just made it stagnant this time around. I think that feels a lot better. The flow is something that might make sense if you were out on the eternal surface, like just like near an artery or something. Like having an actual flow would make sense there. But when you're on a Titan, maybe it's better for it to be stagnant or very, very slowly moving, because it's bigger and has less ico going through it. Hard to say. Again, I need to explore this particular shader a lot more. I just need to figure out what I'm doing with it and what I want it to look like, because it's not quite right either. Oh, something else I forgot to mention last time. I tried this variation on the enemy wanderers. Right now it's hard to see because they're glowing really badly. Let me see if I can fix that. But it's a variation where the sides subtract instead of add, and it's certainly an interesting look. I kind of like it. It's something to explore, at least. When they're all glowy like this, because I turned on the post-processing as well. If I turn off the post-processing, it's easier to see what I'm talking about there. It's also easy to see visual glitches that are occurring due to other reasons that I think are just outside my control, unfortunately. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. It's something to do with how I'm doing the volumetric effect. There's this teething effect. It's frustrating because I can't find anything online about it. I might need to make like an online post asking about that particular thing. It doesn't show up in the scene view. The scene view is just fine. It looks completely okay in the scene view. But in the game view, it has this there's this very distinct teething effect. You can see it, horizontally. When it's going up and down, you can, and that's due to the angle of the camera. But you can also see it on the edges, like over here on this guy. You can see that there's sort of like layers to the volumetric effect, and that should not be the case. It should be just like right there. They're just very distinct layers, which is really strange. It's like the depth buffer isn't actually properly set up for something, and it has like just like these stages rather than just this smooth transition. Because that's what's implied by that. But that's not even, because it shouldn't even be accessing the depth buffer when it's doing that. It should just be reading out the depth values directly. Like it should just, because there's nothing solid rendering under it right now. It should not be accessing the depth buffer at all, now that I think about it. It just should be, it should just work right now. I don't understand why it's not. And again, it works in the scene view. In the scene view, you go up and look at these guys, and it's completely fine. There's no problem whatsoever. That is correct. That is how it should look. And at distance, it looks completely fine. I don't get what's happening. It looks like a homogeneous volume, which is what it should look like. So yeah, I don't know. I tried reducing the fog clipping plane to see if that would fix anything. Nothing changed, because again, like, I think that was a misleading analysis on my part, or misled analysis on my part. I was thinking it might have to do with the depth buffer, but it can't have anything to do with the depth buffer. That's just not applicable in this case, because it doesn't interact with that. It only interacts with the depth buffer if the scene depth is greater or closer to the camera than the fragment that's being rendered. I don't know. Well, that certainly wasn't correct. I'm just messing around with stuff at this point, I think, so it's probably time to end this. If you have any comments, questions, ideas, or anything else on your mind, leave a comment below. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.